Hey everybody, it's me, Tom. Very excited for today's show. We have got a great sponsor today, nuts.com. We love nuts.com. If you're a snacker and haven't heard of nuts.com, listen up. Of course, they have an amazing variety of nuts, but that's not all. They offer over 50 varieties of trail mix, flavored popcorn choices, energy squares, fruit leather, and so much more. Right now, nuts.com is offering new customers a free gift with purchase and free shipping on orders of $29 or more. That's at nuts.com/papa. So go check out all the delicious options at nuts.com/papa. You'll receive a free gift and free shipping when you spend $29 or more. That's nuts.com/papa. We'd also like to thank tompapa.com. Why? Because we have a new show, big announcement. I'm going to be doing my Netflix taping of my next special on June 15th at the Warner Theater in Washington, D.C. That's right. 2 shows on June 15th, Saturday night, at the Warner Theater in Washington, D.C. You can come. You can be a part of the taping. You may even be on Netflix. You could actually say to your friends, I've been on Netflix. I love that theater. I love that town, and it seems like a great spot to do the next special. So that'll be June 15th. Go to tompapa.com. If you don't live near there, if you want to come see me in Orlando, if you want to see me in Boston, we added a second show there. We're going up to Maine. We're going to Omaha. We're going to, where else? Let's see, Omaha, Joliet, Columbus, Ohio, Maine, New Hampshire. We're actually going to see the people from King Arthur Flower when I go to New Hampshire. Very exciting. Dates all over the place, a whole ton, and of course ending on June 15th at the Warner Theater in Washington, D.C. Thanks to tompapa.com.
It's time for Breaking Bread with Papa. Hey! Don't you know? Hey! It's our goal. Hey! It's time for Breaking Bread with Papa. Hey! Don't you know? Hey! It's also a show. Hey!
I'm so happy to see you.
It's nice to see you, Tom.
I'm going to cheers my little espresso.
Cheers, man.
Great to see you.
Great to see you.
This really means a lot.
Agreed. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, because we have this funny relationship of being babies together, comedy babies together, and as we'll talk through, you jumped out and started getting jobs, but we were always kind of like in that rare moment of the beginning, kind of a thing. And although we've gone different paths and done stuff, we've always kept tabs.
Yeah.
And every once in a while, I remember distinctly when I was trying to get a sitcom off the ground, and that was probably 12 years into my career or whatever, and you called out of the blue and gave me some advice and just a little bit of I'm rooting for you.
Yeah.
And it really meant a lot, and I've always had a deep affection for you.
Wow, right back at you.
From the early days, so it's good to see you.
It's great to see you. I remember I've actually saved the piece of paper from, back when we were both trying to do stand-up. I had come from an acting background, and then I got a job hosting a Nickelodeon show.
Yeah.
And so it seemed, if you're an actor and you're hosting a game show, it's a little less plausible than if you're a comedian hosting a game show. And I still had aspirations to do a lot of both comedic work and dramatic work. And so I started to try to go to open mic nights and learn. Because this is in the early 90s. But I still have a piece of paper from the showcase that we did at Stand Up New York, because there was a bunch of us who had gone to these open mic nights, and they said, all right, here's 5 or 6 guys and gals that we think, have the ability to go and do something. And it was yourself, it was me, it was Sam Brown, God rest his soul,
right,
and Greg Giraldo, God rest his soul.
I'm crazy.
Just, really, really talented guys. And then there was
Sandy Marks.
Marla Schultz.
Marla Schultz,
And I think there was
there was another woman on there.
Jackie Phelan.
Jackie Phelan.
So funny.
She was so funny. And
Yeah.
I don't think she stayed in it.
No, I don't think. But she was great, and she was a great actor. But Sam was Sam ended up becoming a great screenwriter, and he passed away a few years ago. Sadly, but he was, I remember he met you, and he's like, "You got to meet Tom. You're gonna love this guy. Tom is so great," and we hit it off. But then I kind of once I started getting more acting stuff, I kind of dropped away from trying to do it.
Well, that was the crazy thing is we all literally showed up, and I didn't realize until I looked at your IMDb that Guts was 92.
Yeah,
because I started in 93.
Yeah, it was
like right there, and for all of us, and that crew was buzzy.
Yeah,
it was like, all of these people are good.
Yeah,
like,
and very positive too, and very supportive.
Oh, 100%. So it was like something could happen, and then all of a sudden you were on television, and it was like, maybe this can really happen.
Yeah,
How's he on television?
Yeah.
You were on the
Life with Roger was the first sitcom that I got. I was hosting. So I was hosting Nickelodeon Guts, and then just back then, it really is crazy when you think about it. Back in the early '90s, that you had to hope somebody else helped you break in. You had to, like, if you wanted to do something, you had to write a one-man show, or you write a play and get that put on with your friends, and then casting people had to come see you, and there was a real gatekeepers. You couldn't just 100% like do what people are doing now, which is great.
I know.
But there was a real thing that you had to feel as if you could break in.
There was a very small door, and everybody had to get through it.
Right.
And not everybody could. All these talented people.
And not only that, it was kind of funny because what is unique about that group, right? Yourself and Greg and Sam and the folks who went on to work Marla too, is just so great. Is that, like I said, how positive they were, because there were people.
Yeah, you're right.
I remember because I'm sure that we go to stand up New York, and then they throw you a gig. All right, somebody needs to come here. Would you come? And you open it. I remember I did like 10 minutes, and it was not good. And then I was excoriated by this woman who came up, who basically did her first 15 minutes was trashing what I had just done prior to that.
Oh, really?
And, and that was pretty much might be the last time I did, sort of did stand up. I was just like, wow, this is the opposite of the vibe that I need to be around.
Oh, really?
So I went to the, joyful world of show business and Hollywood. Everyone's just nice.
Everyone's just nice and supportive.
Yeah.
You're right, though. I mean, now that you're saying it, it was a very positive, like, fun group. It was, no one had a dime.
No.
It was just those spots were unpaid.
Yeah, you had to bring like 15 people. It's just like
to sit in the audience and pay the 2-drink minimum.
So you'd get 15 people, and Greg would get 10 people from his law firm, and other people that you know. And I mean, that was really it. It's like, could you bring people in here to to pay,
and then you can get on stage,
minimum. Exactly,
and then you kind of like drift up. But you're right. Like, the comedy was such a. You could go to places where it was very dark.
Yeah.
There were open mics and stuff. Like, I remember going down to Boston Comedy Club and being like, well, this isn't good for me. I don't care that I got 10 minutes. Those people were mean. The audience was meaner.
Guys, though, man. I mean, there was just like funny guys. But yeah, you had to, it was really like you had to get, hazed to get through.
Yes, 100%.
And
there is a value to that.
So when I'm trying to think like back on them, because you bring positive people to those, open mic nights and to those showcases. Like, what were you doing for a regular job?
I had my mother ran a small advertising agency in New Jersey.
Okay.
So I was kind of knocking around in there. But I had I grew up in New Jersey, so I had a lot of people around.
Right.
Like, I had, all my high school friends who I was still tight with, and my family. There was a lot of people there. One night, I was a bringer show. No, it wasn't even a bringer show, but it was a rainy New York, like, Monday night. And it was Kevin Brennan, Greer Barnes, Dave Attell, and me. And the only people in the audience was my father and his 3 brothers, who all look.
I can only imagine what Dave, just had a ball. Oh
I know, exactly. Everyone and they just did the show. They did the show in front of, and
where was that? Was it at
Stand Up?
New
I
York?
was at Stand Up New York. Yeah,
Man.
that was at Stand Up New York. Carrie Hoffman.
Yeah, Carrie. Yeah.
Jackie had a great joke. She was so great. She was so funny. I don't know. Marla Schultz told me like where she ended up, but I don't know where. And she had this funny joke about commuting with a cello, or what's the bigger one, like the bass or something, and something about getting onto the train or something, and somebody turns to her and go, "What do you think, you're in Vermont?" or something like that. She was so great. I was like, that was one who I thought would still been knocking around. Geraldo was just great.
Geraldo
Gaffigan would come through.
Unbelievable. He was just unbelievable. Even
He
back
really
then,
was.
He just had that. He had that wry. He just had that wry sense of humor.
And he was smarter than us.
Yeah, he was a lawyer. He literally was.
A Harvard-educated lawyer.
Yeah.
Neil Sit Stand. Do you remember any of
I
his
do.
jokes?
I said, why are they? I mean, talk about diminishing the Irish situation. And but yeah, Neil Sit Stand.
Neil Sit Stand. The only thing that's causing the problems is the Protestants and the Catholics. The Catholics Neil Sit Stand.
Yeah.
And he would yell, "Neil Sit Stand.
I'll
Neil
kill
sit-
the fuckers.
I'll kill the fuckers."
yeah. It was.
Didn't he have a Fantasy Island joke?
I don't
Something
remember.
about
I don't remember, but he was
Good.
he would do a joke. He would do a joke that it was about. He's like, I just I was in the bathroom the other day, and I'm not doing it my Greg voice, but he's just like, and I'm looking at the back of the Charmin, and it says, "Any questions? Call 1-800 Charmin." And then he would do
The call.
He'd do the call. It's like, "Hey man, I'm wondering, how do you use this toilet paper stuff? Like I'm confused. Like how many pieces?" I'm not even doing justice to his joke. But
yeah.
he was just a guy who just like he had that wry kind of smile when he was doing it.
So charming. Super
Really,
charming.
really funny.
Yeah. I remember he took me when I started. I had stopped because my girlfriend's father got sick, so it was like, in the beginning you're hardly getting spots at all.
Right.
But I dropped out for about a year, and he would call me like every couple of days.
Oh, really?
What are you doing? When are you coming back? I'm like, "Oh, soon,
That's awesome.
But I felt like I needed to I felt like I just need to make money and take care of this person. And he would just call all the time. So anyway, I ended up gaining, because I loved it, stand up from the beginning, and then stopped. And I was totally off in this world that I shouldn't have been in. I'm like, I'll just make money and hang out at the local bar with my friends for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And gained 30 pounds.
Oh man.
And I was just like getting high and drinking with my buddies. And when I came back, I was kind of heavy. I had long curly hair, and I had Sam Kinison on my mind.
Really curly hair.
And I would and I would lunge to the side.
Yeah.
I would lunge and scream and do my jokes, and it was all fear.
No, you deliver. You bend down.
Yeah.
But there was something really fun about that.
It was like a lunge. It was like a
it literally you'd go into like a lunge, and but I actually thought that was endearing. I mean, that's what it made you unique.
Yeah, I didn't.
But did somebody say stop doing that?
Greg.
Wow.
Greg said to me one night when I bombed while if it goes well while you're lunging, it's fun.
Yeah.
If you bomb while you're lunging, you're like, why are you lunging? You're being too physical for this bombing. And he said to me, you have really good material. He said, try and downshift the running around stuff and let them. And it was right. It was fear. Like, you didn't want a break in the act to hear their reaction. He said, just land on it, and you'll see those jokes are really good. The audience will give it to you. And it was pretty good. And it worked, and it was great advice, because now at this age, if I was still had to lunge, if that was my thing.
I know, you would be like, like at a certain point, like, I can't get down. Like my quads are not here.
Yeah.
It's an interesting point you make, though, that he made about trusting that. I have my cousin is a very funny guy, and he's starting to do stand up for the first time, and he's going out and he's got a great point of view, and he's got great stories. And we were talking about, I think that what happens, especially when you got to get up and you only have 5 minutes, you want to rush through it.
Yeah.
And what we were talking about is how, you have a right to stand on the stage and say it.
Yep.
People want to know what your point of view is.
Yeah.
And you got to give it to them before you start delivering the jokes, because they don't know where you're coming from.
No idea. Yeah. But you're so panicked. That's like trying to tell someone, well, when you jump from the plane, take a moment. Yeah, enjoy it. You deserve to be there.
Right. I know, it's crazy.
In the beginning.
Like, how many did you ever have, like, some of those nights where you're like, I don't know, people bomb, but like you said, you'd do stuff and you'd have your friends there, and I guess it's the first time you go out there where your friends aren't there, and you're walking home afterwards and you're like, why am I doing this?
Oof. Yeah. It never got to a point of questioning, why am I doing this?
Right.
But it was like, what went wrong? Like, what happened? Like, there was no stopping.
Right.
Like, you could have gotten kicked in the teeth, 3 days in a row, and it's never really happened. I was really good back then.
Yeah.
I made you this bread.
You did.
And it's hot because it just came out of the oven.
Wow.
Yeah. That's bread you can take home to your family.
Oh my God. I can't eat it right now?
Well, you can.
All right,
but I brought you.
Thank you.
We got you some donuts too.
Oh, does it look like I eat donuts?
It looks like you probably.
I have.
I was thinking when we were getting them, I'm like, he doesn't look like a guy that says no to a donut.
I'm going to eat this right now.
Yeah, have at it.
Are you
Joey, do
gonna
we
have
have the
one with
plates?
They're behind the box right there.
Oh, I got them. Thank you.
Thanks for the donuts.
You're welcome. Well, yeah, we like to host here. Oh, these are exciting.
Oh my God.
I know. So you have this great career. Like you literally, in my mind, are always the guy who works. Because you worked first. You were the guy that broke into television first. And it's so cool to see, because I saw the ads for Extended Family, the show on. Do we have napkins, Joey? Anything we can wipe our hands on. They're kind of sticky. And you see John Cryer, and you're like, oh, he's back on television. That's brilliant. Someone was smart to do that. And then it wasn't until a beat that I realized you were the guy who did that.
Right. Yeah.
That you created this show. And it made such perfect. Like, I literally just to myself watching like whatever playoff game when they were running the ad,
Right.
and realized and connected it all. I just had a little quiet smile to myself because Mike works. Mike does it, from yesteryear to all of it. But to like actually create a show that you're not on, and you have I don't have to worry about makeup beard now.
Well, no. You know what's funny is that I kept this beard to remind you and me how old I am now. And how long we've known each other. And there's no hiding this. I said to my wife last night, I said, do you think that this beard makes me look so old that it makes the kids sad? Like they know I'm going to die one day, or like they have an old dad, and they're like, no, I don't think so. She does not like the beard.
She doesn't.
What's interesting about the beard is that I grew it for, I've been on a bunch of shows that, what's so crazy about working nowadays is that no one knows what anyone else is doing, right? Unless you're watching football and you hear about a show. Like, there should be like, oh, and then they just canceled this show. It's one of my favorite shows. I don't even know what this show is.
I know.
And like everyone, it's different with a guy like you. A special comes out, we watch it, we laugh our ass off, and then the next special comes out, a couple years later, right? Then you watch that, okay.
Right.
With the show, people feel now like, well, I'm not going to watch it. I'm not going to get invested in it until I know it's going to be on for a couple seasons but I've done a couple shows, and I grew this beard for a show called Snowpiercer, which was on TNT, starred Jennifer Connelly, Sean Bean, and Daveed Diggs, and
nice.
It was something that I was doing after I had come off running a show.
Right.
And it was like in this post-apocalyptic world, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to be in a sci-fi show. I'm going to grow this beard. Everyone's kind of weird, you know, on the show, or they have these little quirks about them.
Yeah.
And then I had to keep it for years after. But I mean, there's something about obviously the beard that makes me very unpleasant to look at. And
Wait,
much
had to
more
keep? Why'd you have to
menacing.
keep? Why'd you have to keep it?
Well, because we did 4 seasons of that show.
Oh, so you made that choice,
Yeah,
and then,
exactly.
Right,
and then
right.
I was doing a show. I was running a show for Starz called Heels, which is about professional wrestlers, and I played this professional wrestling promoter who, you know, also had the beard.
Right.
So it's just a little bit, you know,
Yeah.
it's just a little bit different than the comedy face.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah,
No, I mean it's you look great.
Yeah,
and
thanks,
and I have, when I'm on stage and I'm talking to these audiences, I have that thing in my head, like, if I talk about my kids going to college now, are they going to think I'm old? And in the middle of my set, I was like, I said that to the audience. I said, I almost didn't do those jokes because I didn't want you to think, oh, Tom has gotten older, as if
it's
watching my hair fall out in real time wasn't the tip off.
or the fact that they loved when you used to lunge and you don't do it anymore. They remember you're lunging.
Yeah.
And they remember that you used to do that.
Yeah,
But,
I mean,
yeah.
but the reality is, it's yeah, you are what you are. You look healthy. You look good. You look
Thanks.
sharp.
I'm trying to keep healthy.
Let me ask you this.
Yes.
I'm going to interrupt your thought.
Okay.
Because I didn't think it was going to be a good one. You put together this show on the NBCs, traditional funny sitcom.
Yes.
There's so few of them now. And you look that your director, Ali Leroy, I think, did the pilot.
Yep.
You've got Laura.
Jamie Widows did it, but Ali
And Ali
Leroy
did the
directed an
second
episode.
one?
Yep.
You have like Laura Keitlinger. You have all these great people,
Yeah.
like killers.
Jim Valley,
Yeah.
Ajay Segal, Vic Levin.
Is it because there's so
Morrow.
few comedies out there that you could get just like great people?
I think that's part of it. I mean, I think there's a lot of people who, you know, I think there's a lot of people who are very skilled at writing sitcoms, and they haven't been making as many of them.
Yeah.
You know, you did one. I've done them. It's, as an actor, it's the best gig ever. It is, you know, as a writer, it's I think it's very challenging to to get the stories right, and you're putting it up in front of people every day. And luckily, you know, John Cryer is an executive producer of this show. The show is being made because John Cryer said yes to the script. He's amazing. Tom Werner.
Did you have to go get him?
Yeah, I mean, well, so this idea is based on the real life of 3 people. Do you not want to hear this?
I want to hear it.
bored.
I love it.
Okay, but
I want to hear
They're
it.
going to watch. There's going to be a few of the people going to watch this thing, and they're going to be like, "You can cut this part out if you'd like."
No, it's just the guy over there, Joey. He's a huge Celtics fan.
Okay.
And he grew up in Boston.
He knew that.
And he has been waiting for this interview for a long time. And I don't like making him happy. But
Anyways, we're on the air because of John Cryer. We're on the air because of John Cryer. Okay?
Yeah,
John
but-
Cryer, Susan Rovner, who was running NBC at the time, worked at Warner Brothers when John was doing 2.5 Men, loved John, thinks he needs to be on television in a multicam, and I'm in agreement. And so when John read it,
and you wrote it, but you had created it off of this story.
I
Tell me
created
this
it-
story. Tell me this
no,
story.
it's just basically, Wick Grousbeck, who owns the Boston Celtics, married a woman who was previously married. They have 2 kids. And what they decided, and some people do this who are wealthy enough to do this, they keep one house where the kids stay and the parents come and go. So the disruption is less for the kids. And they thought that was an interesting premise. They told Tom Werner, who's also a Boston Red Sox, he owns the Red Sox, but obviously, Cosby, Roseanne, that 70s show, tremendously successful television producer, said there's an idea here. And so thankfully we went to Lionsgate. They thought there was an idea there too. We sold it to NBC, and then they picked it up if we got John to say yes, because they really wanted to do that. And so
So wait, but But I'm confused by when you decide to sit down and write it. Like, when does that come in? Like,
well, what happened? What happened was I was show running this show called Heels, which was for Starz and Lionsgate production, and then we just, again, we thought that it was a good idea.
Right.
My agent at CAA, this guy Joe Cohen, who's just a tremendously smart guy, he thought there's something here, and so I think that. I think that a lot of the studios and for the people who love sitcoms, they are inexpensive to produce. I mean, they're a lot cheaper to make.
God, compared to the budgets on some of these
crazy
streaming shows are just
it's unbelievable,
insane.
So it's like, even this one, which is a kind of expensive one, is a little bit over $2 million. Like, for a single camera half hour, which is shot like a film, it's there $4 and $5 million.
Wow, amazing. Yeah.
Right. So I think that, people would love to go back to it, and actors love it.
And the audience loves it.
Right.
The audience loves it.
Yeah.
If I was running a network, I would just be making multicams and parking them.
You want to do another one?
And let them go. Yeah, let's do it.
All right, let's go.
I've got one at someplace.
Mike and Tom or Tom and Mike?
Oh, it would be good.
Come on.
Mike and Tom.
Right.
Because it's kind of like Mike and Ike's.
But then it's like Mike and Molly, the show Billy did. Right?
Yeah.
Tom and Mike? What sounds better?
The O'Malleys.
Papa O'Malley.
We play two old priests.
The O'Malleys and the Papas.
Two old priests living in... No, I won't go.
No one will want to watch that.
No one will want to watch it.
Only if we're very devout.
One of us. They're brothers.
Wait,
one is a priest. One is a
Did you grow up
priest.
Catholic?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, so you can only make fun of it if you're Catholic.
One is a priest.
Otherwise, it's
and one is the degenerate brother.
A brother of like the Sacred Heart. The brother, like a brother, like a
brother, like alcoholic, edibles.
Wanted to become a priest, but wasn't allowed to.
Yeah. And now they're living together because. Does it have to be tied to the Boston Celtics somehow?
No. Mom, if you're watching, I think you're going to love this one.
This is a good show. Were you raised Catholic?
I was.
Do you still go to church?
12 years of Catholic school.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I went to Catholic school all 12 years. Yeah.
Wow.
I didn't mind it. I liked it.
I like it.
Yeah.
I started going back.
We were going to church. All my kids at First Communion, and then my daughter couldn't be at her confirmation weekend one weekend, and the Monsignor was a little bit tough on it, and so we're like, "Come on, guys, are you really like?"
Yeah,
she's gone through this whole thing.
Oh my God,
you guys are, are people knocking down the doors to become Catholic nowadays?
Yeah, right, exactly.
It made it very difficult for her. So
oh, that's terrible.
We were a bit unhappy with that.
That's terrible. I know. It's like,
come on, man.
Yeah. I see how many people are in the pews on a Sunday.
Yeah.
Open it up.
Yeah. It's anyways.
So you play the brother who's angry.
Okay. Yes.
And then I'll be the guy who's like, "Oh, give him a chance. You didn't follow the rules."
Exactly. You didn't follow the rules. There needs to be rules. Why do you think that, you'd say to me, like, what, you think your family doesn't have to? Like, she wants to just go to some soccer tournament and not be there for her confirmation?
Yeah.
What kind of Catholic,
Jesus didn't even like soccer. That's what I would say.
Did you go to Catholic school your whole life?
No, I went to catechism, like the extra.
On Sundays, because you went to
on Wednesdays.
School. Oh.
It was on Wednesdays.
Like at night?
Yeah, like after school, you had to go
so
do the thing.
it.
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
Yeah.
But I was always into it. I always had a connection with it. I always was very favorable of it. And even when after my confirmation, didn't go to church as much, like through college and all that stuff, I was always checking in. It was always somewhat there.
And what about your kids? Did you raise them Catholic?
No, my wife went to the same church that I did. We were in the same hometown.
Oh, okay.
We never crossed paths until we were at the comic strip.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. She was a year older. We went to the same church, which is the church where Bill Maher starts Religulous, his documentary against religion.
Wait, where in New Jersey is this?
This is in Bergen County in Park Ridge, New Jersey.
Okay. I have friends from Oradell.
Yeah, right. It's right there. And OLM, there's this giant stained glass, and Bill Maher starts this thing, and I'm like,
Our Lady of Mercy?
Our Lady of Mercy. And he's sitting in front of this thing talking about how ridiculous religion is. And I'm like, that's the stained glass I stared at my entire childhood. It was the same one. And my wife went there too. And my wife wasn't as into it as I was. So decided we weren't going to like raise the kids that way. We'd let them decide when they were a little older. But yeah, I don't know. It's kind of complicated.
Well, I think that what's interesting about it is that I've been thinking about it recently that, you know, you're raised in this, you know, notwithstanding all the criticism that the Catholic Church deserves and should get more of, the actual sort of be kind, be charitable, be loving, forgive people, be understanding of people, that you know your humanity and who you are is complicated and it gets in the way of your own happiness, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. All those things I think are really important in terms of helping people place themselves in a world where, you know, especially when they're growing up, that they want to be a kind person. I do think that and this is what happened for me, is that I really, you know, my faith was probably as strong as it ever was when I was like 16 years old. Like I really believed it to be true. But again, I went to Catholic schools my whole life. I didn't really meet a lot of people. You know, the faith was not like I didn't have any of the bad sort of, you know, there were nuns and brothers, but you know, none of the, you know, slapping with the ruler and all that other stuff. It wasn't bad. Yeah. But I do think that when you're trying to make sense of it, and that you've got one life to live, and then you look around and you think about, okay, well, somebody created this world, and we have been cast about in this place where there is absolute lunacy going on. I think it almost feels, and, you know, to your point about having a character who's a little bit angry of it, it almost feels like a trick has been played on you. Like to believe in, I remember my youngest son, when he found out about, sorry if anyone is listening believes in Santa Claus, but we have 3 kids, and and of course our 2 older kids.
Should we not believe in Santa Claus?
Take. We had 2 cameras rolling on that. We don't even have to do another take. We're good. Check the slate. And that, you know, he was like, when he found out that everyone knew that Santa wasn't real, and he didn't, he was not happy. Right. And not happy. And I do think that there is a little bit when you go, then it wasn't until then that I went off into college. Yeah. And then moved to New York, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like
hearing, yeah.
Well, you know, just experiencing you know, the world as it is. Yeah. You can understand when you have children or whatever, why people would be like, we're just going to get our kids in a boat and we're going to cross an ocean and we're going to start over where we don't have any of these other corrupting influences. Yeah. You know?
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, in a very complicated world, taking all of the politics of the corruption that man has created within the realm of it, if you strip all of that away and you just have your survival on the planet and how to pass through and deal with anger and deal with envy and deal with pride and try and help people and live a more saintly life, it's all there. It's a pretty great guidebook for trying to live a good life and give you something to hang on to in dark times. But that's a concept that when you're a young comic running through New York City at 20, it's not really that important because you're flying and there's all this other stuff going on. It's later, I think, when you kind of like, you know, not everything is great. Maybe I should take that guidebook out again and take a look at it, you know.
But even if you think about like what you're saying, like you had you know, here you have a friend that you're coming up with, Greg, and obviously Greg hit all the heights he had his own sitcom. He was famous. He was making a living as a comedian. The fact that he said to you, "Hey, man, here's my friend. How you doing? Checking in with you." Weren't there. He didn't have to. He could have just been thinking of himself. And that he said to you, "Hey, man, I'm going to give you something that I think you think that might be a quirk that is working for you. This thing that you're doing that is a part of your delivery that I don't think you should do." Like, he's being kind. He's not ripping you to shreds behind your back going,
no,
this and that, right? And,
yeah.
And that's why, because he's trying to come up with his own group of guys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
And do this together.
Yeah. And, there's, I don't want to turn it into a religious podcast, but
Let's do it.
But yeah, I mean, we are actually forming our show. This is actually a writing.
Yes, we're just trying to make the story.
But like, I watch my wife, who was raised that way. So she has a lot of, you can't deny that she had some good lessons instilled when she was young. I think she is I don't think she needs to be reminded to be patient and kind and stuff. I kind of do. You know what I mean? Like, I think like her and my sister, who also is into it, they don't seem to need it as much. I find that I'm better when I'm paying attention to it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I like to be reminded of, I've got to check my pride, and I have to not carry the burden of it all and let put that on someone else or something else.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I have if it's funny because I'm talking about pride, but at the same time, I really want you to take the bread out of that bag.
I thought
to see how
I was supposed to take it home.
I don't want you to eat it, but I want you to see it, because my pride is telling me how good it is.
Did you start during the pandemic?
No, it started
God,
way
it looks
before the
amazing.
pandemic.
I love bread.
See,
I love carbs.
my showing off is sinful because it's prideful.
What is it?
But it's bread,
You're
and
an
that's a
artist.
very holy
You're
thing.
expressing yourself.
Thank you. Whether you're someone who's always on the go and in need of snacks to fuel your day, or simply enjoy having a plethora of snack options within arm's reach, for nights on the couch, Nuts.com is your ultimate snacking destination. I love Nuts.com, and it's very easy to talk about this company because I really like them and I really use them. I have this one drawer in my little island. I got like this little island where you've seen me baking bread. Underneath, I have a drawer, and that's where I keep my snacks. And when I am, and I also put in there hot dog rolls, and I put tortillas and things that we don't really use. And I'll go through there and I'll be like, get rid of this, get rid of this. You know what stays? Everything from Nuts.com. When I can go through there and I store like my roasted almonds with no salt, and trail mix, no salt. I'm off salt right now. And have all those in there. Then there's a secret place in the pantry, which makes it a little more difficult to get to. That's where I put the chocolate-covered gummy bears, chocolate-covered pretzels, the crazy popcorn mixes. Those go in there, so at least I have to open a door, turn on a light, and go a little more effort to go get that. All from Nuts.com. Go check them out. Their website is just a delight, and you just order it all up, and it comes right to your house. Nuts.com is your one-stop shop for freshly roasted nuts, dried fruits, sweets, pantry staples like specialty flours, and more. Their wide selection means there's something for everyone. At Nuts.com, quality is a top priority. They roast their nuts and pop their corn the same day it ships. Right now, Nuts.com is offering new customers a free gift with purchase and free shipping on orders of $29 or more at Nuts.com/Papa. So go check out all the delicious options at Nuts.com/Papa. You'll receive a free gift and free shipping when you spend $29 or more. That's Nuts.com/Papa. So easy to talk about these folks. I really do love them, and their packaging is delightful. Also like to thank TomPapa.com. Again, a little reminder, my tour is roaring right now. We're everywhere. We're in Orlando, we're in New Hampshire, we're in Boston, we're in Florida, in Ponte Vedra. Tons of shows, all leading up to June 15th at Washington, D.C. at the Warner Theater. The next Netflix special will be taped on that night, and I want you to come. tell your friends, bring some friends. 2 shows, probably 7-ish and 9:30-ish or 9-ish or 8:30-ish. I don't know. We'll figure it out. Go to tompapa.com, look it up. I'd love to have you there. Back to the show. When you nail down the show and John Cryer says yes,
Yeah.
and you go do the pilot, and don't take this as an insult because it's
Yes.
not. There's so much navigating a pilot is so you have to show people this family. This very, in your case, a very complex family that is divorced and remarrying, and there's kids and there's all of this stuff. They all just met each other as actors.
Yes.
And you've got to tell America, these people have been through it. They're healing. They're doing all of this stuff. There's so much to cram in there. And you pulled it off. It was very deft. It was that thing is like, this is not like here's the family and we're just hanging out. This is, they're divorced, but they're hanging out and we're dealing with death and all this other stuff. But watching the second one, it's like, oh, this family has been with each other for a long, like you could feel the whole thing like a soup kind of settle.
Yeah.
Did you feel that?
Well, that's very deft because the second episode that we aired was actually the 7th episode that we shot after the strike.
Ah, no way.
Yes. And so
smart.
This it's a credit to the actors that they are able to fake and act like they love one another. But there is something to doing a sitcom, which is like running a gauntlet in the sense that you're rehearsing. The production is going on. The actors are with the director. The writers are, and then they present it to you, and then you rewrite late at night, and then they go back and they do that the next. It's so much different than just like if we're doing a scene right here and we're just finessing all of your lines just in these 3 pages. That's what we're going to do today, and we're doing something else. And so I think that John had done a lot of multicam acting. Donald Faison, who's also amazing,
so
obviously had done Scrubs and had done other multicams, but hadn't done as much as John. I mean, John is one of the foremost practitioners of this. And Abigail Spencer had never done a multicam before. She hadn't done a pilot. And so it's getting everyone, and Jamie Widows, who was our director, and Ali, they love actors. They love the process. They're very encouraging. They're very positive people. And so it created that atmosphere. So that has a lot to do with the directors and John for the tone that it. They're also those 3 actors in particular, and then of course we have Lenny Clark, famous comedian.
I know. It's so good to see him walk through the door.
Good, right? And then our kids are great actors, and so they're all very, supportive of one another. It's interesting loving acting and loving being a part of a cast and feeling like you're on a team. I love that.
Yeah.
It's interesting when you're a showrunner because you are a you're helping to orchestrate that,
right?
But you are apart from that. You know what I mean? So and so I have to really give credit to them for how they look out after one another. Because I've always said that like writers and writers have or actors have the inalienable right to bitch about writers and vice versa. Because they're down there and they're saying, this guy, what the hell, this doesn't work, this is that, why is this? They're always making me this and that, the other thing, and then the writers are like, how come they can't remember that it's getting those things to cohere that we had. Ali and Jamie did such a great job.
Right. Yeah. No, it definitely feels like a family. It definitely feels.
So we shot that pilot in July of 2022, and June of 2022, and then we had 6 months off before we went into the writers' room. Then we started to shoot the other episodes in I think March, and then the strike happened. So we worked March, April, May. Then we had 6 months off, and then we came back, and so. That second episode, was shot a year and a half after the pilot. And so that's why you're feeling, because we had so much time. And then, but it's funny with the sitcom because people went back and they, my parents will call and say, oh, that last episode, you're really cooking along. I was like, that was the second one we shot.
Right.
You're now seeing it here. You're
Yeah,
just
yeah.
getting a little bit more used to the characters now.
100%. I know that's so difficult because everybody has their move and everybody has their thing, and then once you get familiar, this is why, as the head of the network, I would take them and I would park them and let people make those people their family from the viewers, and they grip, and then you start building around it. I mean, it's really remarkable that you have a show, a traditional sitcom on a major network. I mean, it was always a very small target to begin with,
Right.
and now that target's even smaller.
And people, as much as people love all of the big successful sitcoms, that's what you're absolutely going after. Some people just, they absolutely love sitcoms. They want to watch them. Other people, they're like, that's not for me. It's there's an artifice to it, the proscenium and the laughter from the live audience that, it isn't for them. And then other people just, how many episodes of yours did you do?
6.
Yeah. So, I mean, I did, my first sitcom before yesteryear was 6.
Yeah.
And only 2 aired. How many aired? All 6 at least?
I think all 6. Yeah. But they burned them off in the summer.
And what did you feel about that process that was after having done stand-up that you're like, all right, I'm ready to, kind of do this? And
yeah, they came and got me. I always said I'll go to L.A. when they come and get me.
Right.
And I did a set on Conan, and Jeff Zucker, who's the president at the time, saw it on the feed, and they came and got me. And it was fun. I was so naive, though. I was like, I don't know. I came from a time when it was like you don't have a special until you've done it for 12 years, and you don't get a TV show until you've done it for. And they just came, and I was like all of a sudden in a writer's room and writing with Greg Malins and doing all this stuff, and we just kind of like got further than we thought we were going to get. But I was just we were just young and naive, and then the president, then Jeff left, and a new guy came in and cleaned house, and it just became a thing. But the biggest lesson, I was like, I couldn't believe I got it on the air.
Because you had a big stand-up career.
Well, that was the biggest thing was when you're disappointed, but I wasn't like, oh, F this or any of that. I was, when it was over, and 2 months later, I was driving back onto the lot to park my car and do a set on the Tonight Show. And I realized, oh, they can't stop this. Right. So I'll always knock around. Other stuff will come. Right. I'm in the game.
Right.
But with stand-up, you could just always do it.
Yeah, you don't have to rely on anyone else.
No, you don't.
And you have your audience.
Yeah. So that was a fun lesson.
Are we not doing this?
No, I was just gonna say I still, even though the target's really small, I still have a script on my desk that's in development, and I still, even though
let's do this.
All right, let's do it.
Fine.
Okay. Let me.
What's the premise?
You really don't like the priest thing.
You guys don't see each other for 25 years.
I think we could be brothers.
Right. There we go.
Right. I think we look like brothers.
I'm the hairier one.
I wanted to grow my beard, and I just started. Look at a little baby one.
This is just getting me ready for all the docudramas about the insurrection. All right, if I keep this, I will be working as a villain in American television for hopefully next couple decades at least.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. When you worked with Tom Hanks,
I did on.
Oh my God! Do you have any Tom Hanks stories?
Oh, he's just a great guy.
I never heard that before.
He's just a great guy. Like I meet him the night before. He's like, "Hey man, Tom." I mean, he's just an unbelievable guy.
It's amazing.
But, I mean, what's interesting? Have you ever met him?
I met him once backstage at the Beacon.
I tell you, he's. It was very interesting because it was Clint Eastwood movie. It's Sully. He's playing Sully. We met the night before we were shooting. Mm-hmm. I had friends who worked with Clint Eastwood beforehand who say he will change the setup. Like after he'll do one take and then he'll move on. Yeah. He'll move on.
Super fast.
You better know your lines, because if you don't know your lines, the camera you will eventually get the lines. You'll do them in ADR or something. All the lines will be in the script. But if you don't have them down, the camera will be on somebody else when you say your lines. And this dialogue was like, I'm a National Transportation Safety Board, person. Hey, man, and my line to Tom was just like, and people are always like, why were you so mean to Sully? I was like, did you have any drinks? What if the answer was yes? You know what I mean? Yeah, I had 4 margaritas. Boom,
exactly.
Like, all I'm asking
you had
is
a job to do.
Did you have any? This is a simple process.
You played it kind of mean, though.
That was how I was directed. Okay, so Clint Eastwood, they don't. He when you're on the set, everyone knows this. Even people who aren't in the business know. Like, quiet on set, action. You know what I mean? This is he. Have you heard this about him before? Like when they say sound rolls, they don't do it. They just everyone around there starts doing this.
Oh, really?
Because that means sound is rolling. Because
he's cut that out
because of the horses, so they don't scream action because they don't want to scare the horses. Then he just walks up. He goes, and go. So then you're doing it, and then the laughter. He goes, and stop. But what was interesting is that Tom, like like he's such a nice guy, and of course you're expecting that.
Yeah.
And but most movie stars that I've met who have that persona are nice people.
Yeah, exactly.
Almost every one of them.
Yeah.
And have an awareness and approachability, but then you're in a scene with him, and you got to be, he's Sully, and this is that, and you're realizing to yourself, and it's again, I'm 57 years old now. I was over 50 when we shot that movie, and I'm just like, oh my God, here I am.
You're 13 years old.
It takes a second where you're just like, because you're on screen with one of the most famous actors and most accomplished actors of all time.
So crazy.
And you have to just really, 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 really know your lines.
Yeah.
And any of the aspiring actors out there, know your lines, because this was the jargon was, 52 flux capacitors and blah, blah, be at 29 knots and a thing, blah, 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 blah. And it was just like
the worst. That's jargon. The worst. Yeah.
But again, going back to him, I went back for the premiere in New York. And this is the kind of guy who has the awareness when he's standing up introducing the film to say, I had a small part in the movie. And we got Michael Malley, and again, this is just a level of alertness and empathy. And how everyone, people say, people just want to be seen. He recognizes that.
Right.
God, I'd work with him.
Yeah.
All the time.
That's amazing.
Everything.
Oh, he's the best.
Yeah.
It's
it's really nice to meet great, people, nice people in this business, because, you hear, I'm sure your people from back east have said this to you, or they wonder about it when do you have any friends? Do you have any friends out there? Because they see the craziness about Hollywood, and they read about it, and they see it, and they think that somehow that the kid they went to high school with or college with is going to be somewhat corrupted by that, and I just try to tell my friends from New Hampshire, it's just like, yeah, man. I mean, we got 3 kids.
Yeah.
We get them ready for school. We take them to school.
Yeah.
We come home. We take them to their practices. We try to get their homework done. We put them to bed. On the weekends, we go to their stuff. It's no different.
I know. I remember when our kids were little was around the time that Entourage was really hitting, and we would watch Entourage. And, we've got our kids and their cats and the whole thing, and we're doing our thing, and we're living out here, and we're watching Entourage. And I remember turning to my wife and going, Hollywood looks fun.
Yeah, right.
We are so far from that. We could be in Wyoming.
Yeah.
There's no difference.
Yeah. You see the people I know. This is the same. I mean, I'm coaching a baseball team. That's what we're doing.
Yeah, and the people that you meet when you work, the other actors and stuff that you end up becoming friends with, are in the same boat.
Yeah.
They're the ones with the families and the ones that are doing the same stuff.
And it's interesting because those are the ones who, and I think everybody recognizes this, that those are the ones who, if your kids, because we're just coming out of it right now, because my youngest is about to turn 17. And so we see how, you go through this period where you've got your friends, you're doing your stuff.
Yeah.
And then your kids, once they start going to school and they're playing sports or doing activities, you're just looking for the 2 or 3 dads that you can relate to on the sidelines or that you connect with. And then so much of that is, but you meet great friends through your kids. But then once they go on, you find yourself retreating back to your friends who you haven't, seen.
Yeah.
Maybe a couple, maybe some friends are ahead of you,
Yeah.
or there's some friends who got kids that are younger.
Yeah.
You're like, hey, we'll babysit, whatever.
Yeah. I had a line in my act when I'm talking to my daughter when she's leaving, and I'm like, I don't even have friends anymore. All my friends are your friends' parents.
Yeah.
And now you're gonna go?
Yeah. Right.
I better call my friends from high school and see what they're up to.
I was trying to explain it to my kids, and this is what dawned on me, that it's like being a parent is like every 2 years, this person that you really love dies. Or just vanishes. So
you being you,
meaning no, the kid.
The kid.
So like the kid, your kid is the 10 years
that
old.
version.
Hey, Dad, we're gonna watch the thing and blah blah blah. And you're like, yeah, you love this guy. And then all of a sudden, like 12 years old, like they don't want to remember that kid. And it was 2 seconds ago for you. You're like, wait a minute, we were just doing the thing.
Yeah.
And then obviously the kid. I'm not saying that the kid dies. It's just like they're gone.
New version.
And now
they molt.
Yeah, and it's funny, and I'm sure you realize it. These damn phones where the pictures come up, and you're just like,
God.
oh my God, and then. My kids said to my wife, was like, why does Dad always send us pictures of when we were younger? Doesn't he like us when we were? No, you won't let me take your picture now. Or, I don't want to take your picture.
Yeah.
But it was like, these people that you loved hanging out with, and like
I know.
my wife and I were like, we met when we were 27. And like, we want to have kids, we want to have a family, we want to do all that, and now we're doing it, and then.
It's over. I know. It's just gone. It really is insane. It really is. I was saying to somebody that who has young kids, and we were talking about the scroll on your computer or the iPhone just showing you the photos of your life all the time. Yeah. And my friend has like a 4 or 5 year old. And I'm like, you're living right now in the pictures I can't look at right now.
Oh, that's a great line.
Because some of them come up and they're just like, it's heartbreaking. Where did that go? It was so fast.
It's never coming back. And I say to people, I think that the thing that I try to say to younger people now that I wish somebody had told me is that your involvement in their life, like right up until they're like 11 or 12. Mm-hmm. But then once, especially in Los Angeles, it's like they're 12 years old. They got to get into the good school. They got to study their tails off if they're going to get in the other school. And so there's so much homework. There's so much work. There's so much competition, and whether you put it on them or not.
Yeah.
Right?
No, the school.
Yeah. My daughter was, I remember she was at an all-girls school. It was out here, and it was like she was in 7th grade, and my wife was like, "You've got to get your rest," and she's like, "But I've got to get my work done." It was like 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah,
and it's what are they, like 12 years old?
Yeah,
and I listened to this almost like 5 nights in a row, and finally I went upstairs to my daughter and my wife. I said, "Listen, either you have to go to bed or you have to go to bed, okay? Because I don't think I can handle another 5 years of this, because that's what we're looking at."
Right.
And then I said to my daughter, I said, "But I have to but she has to."
Yeah.
And I said to my daughter, I said, look around.
Yeah.
We don't live in a mansion. That's a nice house. Look at your furniture in there. It's Pottery Barn teen. Okay? Yeah. We go on a couple of vacations, back east. We go to the beach. We go to the lake. Okay? You get Nikes. You know what I mean? We order food out. Yeah. I said, all of this, all that your eyes can see, 2.89 University of New Hampshire. Okay? I was like, you got to learn half-ass it every once in a while.
Right.
Of course, I don't say that to my sons.
Yeah.
Because they don't,
Because they're already half-assing. If you do half of half.
They're awesome, too. But it's this idea that if I'm not squeezing every single thing that I can out of the day,
I know.
and not having any moment to rest or contemplate.
Colin Quinn has this great joke where he says, with all this pressure of the kids and putting them in all this stuff and making them work really hard, he goes, I want my kids to have what I never had, a nervous breakdown at 10.
He's great. I met Colin Quinn at my aunt's wedding in like 19 84, I think it was.
Wow.
He was a bartender with
84.
my uncle, and he was just like, this guy's going to be famous, and sure enough, he was.
Yeah. So great. So what was that connection? It was your...
My aunt was an actress. She lived in New York.
Okay.
And she was married to a guy who bartended with him at this bar,
Right.
Down in Rock Center.
That's like probably right at remote control, right?
Right around that remote control I think started like around 89.
Yeah.
The guy who directed all those, Scott Fishman, directed my first show that I did for Nickelodeon.
Wow.
Man, those days. Yeah.
New York was a very creative, cool spot
Yeah.
in the early 90s.
Yeah.
That there was just so much happening. There was alternative comedy and club comedy and all the auditions going on. There was the population of comedians, actors all coming through was pretty fierce.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
When was the first time you really felt like you had like, oh my God, I got money in my hand, or just like, holy crap, I cannot believe I just got paid this for telling jokes? Like, how long had you been doing it before?
Like a couple of years.
Yeah.
I had, when I left the job and I had in my mind, if I can make the same money off of these gigs that I can off of this writing, I can jump. And I got a gig for Dewar's Scotch to go to Boston and host as a comedian these events that they would bring young people in and show them Dewar's Scotch and get them turned on to that. And I did like a couple months of that, and it paid me more than stand-up. I mean,